I still remember the weight of that moment as if it happened yesterday. I had planned to surprise everyone by returning from overseas 2 weeks earlier than expected, imagining smiles, laughter, and maybe a few happy tears. Instead, the second I unlocked the front door of the apartment I had called home for years, my roommate rushed toward me with tears already streaming down her face. She threw her arms around me with such desperation that I could barely breathe, and no matter how gently I tried to pull back, she refused to let go. In that instant, I knew something had happened while I was gone. Some surprises bring joy, while others reveal the invisible battles people fight in silence. Before we continue, if stories about hope, friendship, and second chances touch your heart, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness so you never miss another inspiring journey. When I accepted a temporary overseas work assignment, everyone congratulated me. It was the opportunity one had dreamed about for years, promising financial stability and valuable experience. My roommate Emily was the first person to help me pack my bags, reminding me not to worry about the apartment because she would take care of everything until I returned. We had met by accident 3 years earlier after both answering the same apartment listing. What started as two strangers sharing rent slowly became something much deeper. We celebrated birthdays together, survived late-night deadlines, comforted each other through heartbreaks, and slowly became the closest thing either of us had to family. Since both of us had grown up in homes where love often came with conditions, we had quietly built our own version of home inside those small apartment walls. Life overseas was exciting, but it was also lonely. Every beautiful place I visited somehow reminded me of the people I wished were standing beside me. Emily and I texted regularly, but as the months passed, her messages became shorter. She always insisted she was simply busy with work, and I believed her because I wanted to. Looking back, I realized there were signs hidden between every carefully chosen word. There were fewer jokes, fewer pictures of the apartment, fewer random messages about her day. She had become an expert at pretending everything was fine. 2 weeks before my scheduled flight home, my project was completed ahead of schedule. My manager offered me the option of staying abroad for vacation, but all I wanted was to go home. I imagined Emily's shocked expression when I walked through the front door. I bought small gifts from every country I had visited, carefully wrapping each one with handwritten notes. During the long flight home, I pictured us sitting in the kitchen late into the night, laughing over old memories and making plans for the future. The apartment looked exactly the same from the outside, but something felt different the moment I stepped inside. The lights were dim even though it was afternoon. The plants we used to care for together had nearly withered. The cheerful atmosphere that once filled every corner had disappeared. Then Emily appeared from the hallway, looking thinner than I remembered, her face pale from exhaustion. Before I could even say hello, she ran toward me and held me so tightly that I realized this wasn't the embrace of someone simply happy to see an old friend. It was the embrace of someone desperately trying not to fall apart. Only after several long minutes did she finally loosen her grip. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and although she tried to smile, the sadness behind it was impossible to hide. Slowly, over cups of untouched coffee growing cold on the kitchen table, the truth emerged. A month after I had left, the company where she worked announced massive layoffs. Emily lost the job she had loved for nearly 6 years. She searched everywhere for another position, but every interview ended the same way. Savings disappeared faster than she expected. Bills piled up. She quietly sold her laptop, jewelry, and even some furniture to keep paying rent because she didn't want me worrying while I was overseas. She told everyone she was fine because asking for help felt like admitting defeat. The hardest part wasn't losing her job. It was believing she had somehow lost her value as a person. Every rejection convinced her she wasn't good enough anymore. Friends gradually stopped checking in after she repeatedly insisted everything was under control. Pride became a prison she couldn't escape. Every morning she woke with determination, and every evening she returned carrying even more disappointment than the day before. By the time I came home, she had almost convinced herself that she was completely alone. Listening to her story filled me with a mixture of sadness and guilt. I had been exploring new countries while the person who had stood beside me through some of the darkest moments of my own life was silently drowning only thousands of miles away. I couldn't change the months I had missed, but I refused to let her face another day believing she had nobody left. The next morning became the beginning of something neither of us expected. We reorganized the apartment together, creating a workspace from the dining table. We updated her resume, practiced interviews, and reached out to old professional contacts. I used part of the money I had saved overseas to cover our rent without telling her it was a sacrifice. To me, it wasn't. It was simply what family does. We created small daily routines that forced hope back into our lives. Morning coffee became planning sessions. Evening walks became opportunities to remind each other that progress isn't always visible immediately. Weeks passed before anything changed externally, but internally Emily slowly became herself again. The woman who once laughed at terrible jokes began smiling more often. The apartment filled with music again. The neglected plants received water and sunlight, almost as though they had been waiting for hope to return alongside us. One rainy afternoon, an email arrived offering Emily an interview with a non-profit organization searching for someone with exactly her experience. She prepared harder than she ever had before, not because she was desperate, but because she had finally started believing she deserved another chance. A few days later, she received the phone call that changed everything. She got the job. It wasn't just employment. It was proof that one difficult season never defines an entire life. Watching Emily walk through the apartment that evening with genuine happiness shining across her face reminded me that success isn't measured only by promotions or salaries. Sometimes success is simply helping someone remember their own worth before they forget it forever. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't solving another person's problems but refusing to leave while they fight through them. If this story is touching your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who may be struggling silently, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind people they are never truly alone. Before we reach the end, please leave a comment with the words, "No one should fight alone." Your message could become the encouragement a stranger desperately needs today. Looking back, returning home 2 weeks early felt like a coincidence at first. Now I believe it was exactly where I was meant to be. I had expected to surprise my roommate with gifts collected from around the world, but life had prepared a much greater lesson instead. I learned that kindness often arrives quietly, without applause or recognition. I learned that strength sometimes looks like admitting you're exhausted. Most importantly, I learned that second chances rarely appear as dramatic miracles. More often, they begin with one person refusing to walk away when someone else is at their weakest. The hug Emily gave me at the front door wasn't simply relief that I had come home. It was the moment hope returned after months of silence. And perhaps that's the greatest reminder any of us can carry through life. No matter how dark the season becomes, healing often begins the moment someone reminds us that we don't have to face tomorrow alone.